Hello and welcome to 2026. This is season 6, episode 1 of the Ballcard Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector,
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we back, baby.
We are.
We are back.
Nice little 3-week break just to get our bearings. 2025 was a grind, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
What we have 48 straight episodes. I
did.
think each one of us maybe took 1 or 2 solo episodes while the other was on vacation or had something going on. We did 49 or 50 shows.
Yeah.
We did 40 plus whatnot streams, maybe 50 by the time it was all said and done. It was a year, man.
Yeah. And we had all this free time left over.
So much free time.
It has been wild. You know, a year ago, we decided to turn cameras on so that people could see us and decided to actually put our content out there and make it as available as possible. And so far, it's been a wild ride.
That's a fact.
I think we're somewhere over 3 million views in a year between our platforms, which is a number I never thought I would hear.
Nope.
And that's including socials and all that. So all you that's going to get to pinch a number. We're counting clips too. We're not saying anything. What we're saying is that's a number we never would have dreamed of. And more importantly, just the relationships we developed in the last year. Now that people know, you know, who we are, what we've been doing. And even in the last few months, it's been crazy because there's a lot of people that have seen us every week at their shows that they work at that are other dealers. And they just now stumbled onto the content, even though, you know, we have a banner that says podcast on it, that we've had at every show. But seeing people, even last weekend in Xenia, somebody's like, oh,
you guys, I know you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been really weird, but we want to do some fun stuff today. We got a big update for the show. Something you guys are not going to believe is going to happen. I'm going to make fun of an idiot also. Not the same person, a different conversation, but this is a person that gets special treatment. I let him know we're going to try to make him famous this week. I had an opportunity to fix it. They didn't. So here we go with that. And then we're going to look back on 2026 and give our biggest wins, losses, perspective, things that we're focusing on for the next year. And then probably the biggest lessons we learned as guys that sell cards for a living.
Yep.
You want to jump into this big one right away? Or you know what? I'm going to get out of turn here.
Okay.
Why don't you give everybody, like as a zero entry here into the pool, you were talking to me about some things that January has a tendency to bring out in the hobby.
Oh yeah.
And I'd like for you to start there, and then we'll go to Geoff Wilson after that.
Okay, that works. So this time of year, if you've been in the hobby for a long time, especially if you're active on social media platforms, you see a couple of things that stand out between Christmas and the end of January almost every year. The first one is a good one, and a lot of times those of us who have been around for a long time respond to it the wrong way. We get a lot of new people coming into the hobby. They either got some money for Christmas or somebody bought them a blaster box because they know they're a sports fan, and it made them go look for their old stuff that they had when they were a kid, and then they hop on eBay and they see people trying to sell Jose Uribe error cards for $2,500.
Right.
And then they immediately jump onto Facebook or Instagram and they start asking questions that we've all seen 10,000 times, have been answered 10,000 times. And our immediate reaction is, how could somebody be this stupid to ask this question? It's hard to remember. We all started somewhere. Those questions don't bother me as much as they used to. Here's the one that gets me, though, more than anything else. A lot of times those same people or people who have just had enough start to make this statement, and it really, really frustrates me. So this may be a recurring theme in the show, but I want to call this translating bad hobby takes. The one I want to talk about today is a post I saw 3 times in the span of 2 hours in 3 different places by 3 different people. And that was, I'm so sick of this hobby anymore. It's just not for kids anymore. How are kids supposed to afford any of this? Let me translate what they're actually saying. I can't afford this hobby. That's what they're actually saying. What they're actually saying is, I want NT boxes for $50. That's what they're saying. This hobby has never been.
And I want the hits to be worth 10 grand.
Yes. I want to pay as little as possible so I can rip stuff. And I want, when I hit something, to be worth lots and lots of money. Those two things don't go together. This hobby has never been just for kids. Sorry, it never has been. Growing up in the 80s and going to shows at malls, there were 7 or 8 grown men for every kid walking around. Go look at pictures of shows from the 60s. It was just grown-ups with the occasional teenager thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can still absolutely enjoy this hobby. One of my favorite things is seeing videos of kids opening a box of Big League or a flagship pack and hitting their favorite player. And those of us that do this for a living go, oh, it's only $1 card. That kid is ecstatic that they hit that Aaron Judge. He's their favorite player. Kids have a blast in this hobby. I would go so far as to say that there are more kids involved in this hobby right now than at any point in the history of this hobby. That's a
great point. I agree.
Every single show you go to, there's at least one kid for every 2 or 3 adults, at least. And they're working hard. And a lot of times they know more about this than a lot of you adults do.
Mm-hmm.
So miss me with this hobby isn't for kids anymore. This hobby isn't for people who don't have any money. That's a true statement. But that's not just kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's my rant.
That was a little bit of a rant. So here's what I would say too. Like, as you see all these people that are new to the hobby, this is the time when Facebook is more toxic than ever.
Oh, God,
right?
Yes.
Hey, I'm getting back into the hobby. I opened a pack and hit this card. Now, here's what we know. There are people who are putting that in there, and they actually mean that, and they're just excited. And like, so for example, Sports Cards Nonsense has a 400 and some thousand people in their group.
It is a toxic,
arguably the most toxic comments I've ever seen in my life regarding the hobby. And there's some shady groups out there.
Yeah.
But people will be like, hey, I hit this, and they just get eviscerated, and they're going to be done after one box because other people that are mad about the same thing you said or are so upside down because they believe that ripping wax was the model for some type of business or whatever, they're cooked. So don't be a jerk to people new in the hobby. You have an option too, other than like ripping them. You could just like
scroll
the photo.
By.
Or do nothing.
Yeah.
Scroll by. Don't be a jerk.
In transparency.
You're not good at this.
I'm not. I'm better than I used to be. I used to be the guy who felt like he needed to say something to every stupid thing that he saw. It felt like it was my job to correct all the stupid in the world. You've
grown a lot in the last 5 minutes, Gary. You've grown a lot in the last 5 minutes. I'm really proud of you.
I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, but I'm better than I used to be.
I would agree. I would agree that you have improved. People that don't like us are going to have a heyday with that because they think that's all we do, which is not true.
That's all right.
Which is not true.
Those people
we try to offer value. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But let's jump into this Geoff Wilson story.
You
ready?
Of offering value, we got some exciting stuff.
We got some fun stuff. So obviously we've talked about this. Everyone's talked about it ad nauseum. The Beckett acquisition by collectors. And then we have this crazy story where a letter is written from a congressman to the FTC and what's going to happen with that. Well, right when this deal was announced, the day before or the day of Geoff Wilson announcing his on-site PSA submissions, remember, same parent company, right? He's thrilled. He's excited. And Geoff does what he always does. He takes to socials to say how excited he is. Now, I'm just going to read this so I don't mess it up. Gary, make sure that we got this up on the screen.
Yep,
I really hope Collectors makes Beckett great again. First off. Anyway, the excitement of getting a new Beckett price guide in the mail was a highlight of my week as a 10-year-old. I was absolutely obsessed with collecting as a kid, and Beckett was the brand I most associated with that experience. I would love to see Beckett restored to its prominent decades past. I truly hope Collectors does that. Now, there is not a word that was spoken in there that I would disagree with. And exactly. I think the old heads, the people that are always trolling Geoff, people like us that do that quite a bit, the words themselves in that paragraph, there's no problem with. There's a problem, though, and it's that we all have seen this movie before 1 year ago.
Yes.
With a brand that had more growth.
And
with
more
a
momentum.
Brand that was heading in a different direction with SGC. And we've covered that a lot. They were turned into a parts car. As we know now, 1 month later from this Beckett announcement, PSA is backed even further up. Turnaround times, last I saw, over 180 days, but nobody knows really what that means. So Geoff makes this post. Everybody loves to hate on Geoff. I'll give him credit in that if tomorrow he decided that every post was going to be the most thoughtful post in the hobby, he's still going to get ripped, right? So this is not me.
5 years
I understand that, Gary. I understand. I'm just laying the groundwork here, okay?
Yep.
So he makes that comment. I cannot wait to say something because I'm so frustrated. Gary and I had even talked about, with monetization, like 2026, we want to partner with some brands. But the thought of partnering with Beckett that was starting to see a little bit of growth again was a big, that was something we really wanted to do, was go after that as a potential partner for an alternative solution to grading, right? But you have a legacy brand. So I'm bummed out a little bit selfishly, but I also, as a collector, wanted Beckett to emerge as a competitor. I wanted to see that happen. So all I did was comment on this. Beckett is going to get the SGC treatment button. And I put a little arrow. And it got a bunch of likes. And I was like, ha, I bet Geoff sees that. Maybe not. Geoff comments. Geoff knows we're live. Geoff knows we exist. Sometime around this, too, he referenced Uncle Terry and said Uncle Terry only buys his cards at Cards HQ, which, honestly, that's a pretty good clapback. But no, he doesn't. Also, all right, so I post that in. Geoff goes on, I sure hope that doesn't happen. Collectors bought SGC because they were a threat to PSA. This is different. I don't think Beckett was that threat to PSA. So hopefully they'll blah, 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 blah. And I just replied, willing to put a wager on it? Like an unfiltered interview if this happens to Beckett over the next 6 months. So here's how this is going to work. If Geoff replies to me, what I'm saying is, if Beckett goes down like SGC with their submissions, we're right. If Beckett goes up, you're right. But 6 months from now, let's put a bet on this and see what happens. So here's what happened. Here's the wager. I just threw it out into the ether to see what happened, expecting to be ignored. And I said, hey, if Beckett is up in 6 months, we will wear Cards HQ merch on the podcast. If Beckett is down, like we're expecting them to do, then you will come on the Ballcard Show and do an unfiltered interview. And I mean, we're going to ask questions. He messages me. He's game. So let me pull up, because I got to do receipts in case Geoff changes his mind here.
No backing out, Geoff.
No backing out now.
You
now that we're out here.
We have receipts.
I said, what do you think? I think it'll be fun. He said, I'm game. Jim Rate shows Beckett graded 74,000 cards in November, sports and non-sports. How about we measure that? He said, if I win, I'll come on your show and claim my victory while we're wearing the gear. So he wants his face on there too, which it's going to be hard for us if that happens. But that's the deal. And then he says, if you win, you can ask me whatever, no holds barred. That's where we want to invite some of you as listeners to submit questions to ask Geoff.
Yes.
And we will absolutely honor that.
Also, props, Geoff.
Yeah.
You know that we have not been anything less than, probably the kindest word would be, critical of the way you do things sometimes. And to be willing to step into that arena without the level of control that a lot of times you have when you're doing interviews. Props, man. I'll give you props for that.
I would agree. I wasn't expecting him to be interested in this. I thought he would say no way, or honestly just ignore us. But the only thing we counter back with was we prefer to stick with sports for a couple of reasons. That's our world that we live in.
Yeah.
And we want an accurate number of what's happening with the sports card market. And there's so much demand in the non-sport, TCG and all that I think anybody willing to grade a slab with a 180-day wait time is going to get some submission. So I think that sports one gives us a better picture. He said, sure, that's fine. The only caveat is if the FTC investigation shuts it down, obviously the deal's off. So Geoff, we're tracking that. We're going to watch that number. I think he was shooting for April. So in April, we're going to see how many sports cards were submitted. And boy, I hope we get an interview.
We'll see you in April, one way or the other, Geoff.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out one way or another. So I was kind of excited about that. I know that there are a lot of people that have asked us to cover stories about Geoff, to thank you for saying this or saying that about it. And not just the tinfoil hat negative people, just people that have an honest take. So I would love to see that dialogue. If there are things that Geoff feels like people just don't understand, then he needs to do interviews with people like us and not from his studio with other big names. Like, who are people that are set up at shows and dealers and LCS owners and boots on the ground that, you can have an honest dialogue with. Yeah.
Boots on the ground is the important part. One of the things that I think his 2025 showed us is that those people out there like us who are in the grind of this, doing it for a living, and not with a 6-figure bankroll that we can just churn 10% on every week.
Right.
People who are out there really in the grind of this they feel a really big disconnect between the influencers and the way they portray this business
Yeah.
and the way it actually is. So if someone like Geoff wants to try to clarify, why some of that exists and maybe some misunderstandings, we want to give him the opportunity to do that.
Or just that big divide between, he has to feel that. You go to a show and you're in the same space as everybody else in that room, but it's like the majority are huddled up on the other side of the room. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there's dialogue that can happen. I'm hopeful for it. I don't think we're going to save the hobby. I don't think Geoff's going to be like, oh, thank goodness the Ballcard Show. Thank goodness Gary and Jason. But I think it would be a fantastic interview. I think we're able to be blunt in a way that's still, well, that's another topic. There's a boundary between good content that is holding people accountable and just being ultra negative because with no end in sight and for no reason.
Yeah, and one of the things that we really try hard to do, and hopefully you guys have noticed this, but we conscientiously make the effort. We will go after takes. We will go after actions. We try really hard not to be personal.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know Geoff personally.
Is probably, other than our boy Eric Michael, Geoff has probably taken more personal stuff from us than anybody. I'd say probably been more aggressive towards him.
And I will say for me, Eric Michael's probably the exception to that. I get a little personal there. Not going to
lie. We don't know Eric. Eric, you're welcome to join us for an interview too. So
absolutely.
We still have that story to break about your program. That's
boy, that would be
cutting edge. Cutting edge. All right. While we're being so positive, I would like to highlight somebody that I would consider a hobby moron. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, please. This is a fun one. And let me preface what you're getting ready to say here. We were literally getting ready to start our Whatnot stream. We're finalizing our card order. We're getting everything ready to go. And Jason's phone dings and he goes, "What is this?" And this is what happened.
All right. Michael Majewski on TikTok, former partner and Transparent Breaks. He made a point of telling me that he is no longer affiliated with them as of one day after I shot the message. So to be clear, he is not affiliated with Transparent Breaks. But at the time of the message, he was. Let's back up a little bit. We get a lot of messages where people think we're idiots, and that's okay. I'm comfortable with that. When you're opinionated and loud and you're not the mainstream of the type of content you see where it's cases of stuff being open. Look how many case hits I got at the show. Here's a $15,000 purchase. Like, we're just kind of guys that are selling singles, right? We're a little different. And so because of that, we draw out a lot of opinions. And a lot of times there's trolls that were just like, want anybody with any type of an audience, even a smaller audience, to respond and give them a little bit of marketing. And that's fair game. Every once in a while, somebody says something so dumb that I have to talk about it. And so this is the situation that we're in. The way that this happened made no sense. And then for this Michael to double down on this, I just thought it was crazy. Now, he made it very clear he wanted to do a call or an interview. And I made it very clear, well, that's not going to happen, but we're going to do our part to make you well known, because there may be people that feel exactly like you. And this may be your banner to carry your content out in 2026 and just get a bite of that pie. You know what I mean? All right. So here's what he said. First off, he sent us messages in May. Just now seeing you guys. Hope you guys talk us up as a repacker. That was his first message in May. No response. And he talked about how they're changing the lying ass hobby. We're honest. Camera never leaves the product. We only restock when a case hit is hit. Our name is public in the next couple of days. We don't manipulate like 99% of the repackers out there. Reminder, that was in May. They're out of business and it's January. So then last week, Gary posted a preview video of stuff he's running on Whatnot. And if you haven't seen that, like, our Whatnot stuff, we are unapologetic. We run affordable, collectible stuff with a heavy emphasis on 90s and 2000s. When it comes to stuff bigger than that, we have showcases that we're set up every week somewhere in the country, in the Midwest usually, right? So, well, it's always in the Midwest. What am I talking about? But we're always set up. But one of the things we'll do is a preview, like, hey, tonight on Whatnot, I'm running this Bobby Hole auto, and here's a Marcus Camby atomic refractor. And it's a lot of like, we try to emphasize stuff that's a little bit unique and inserts and all that. So Gary's just doing a preview video of the cards that he's going to run at $1. No sudden death. We don't do that.
And we don't scream.
We don't scream. So this is a 20-second auction with 7-second extensions on it.
And we rarely talk about what a card's worth.
Nope. If we've been running lighter stuff all night and there's like $100 or $200 card, then we'll say, hey, this is where this is. The only other thing we'll do from time to time is if a card has that value and we've been getting crushed and we just can tell that bids are going to be under, we will say, hey, I'm going to start this card at about 30 to 40% of the value. We started at a number that's so obvious on the margin that there's nothing to think about.
Right.
So that's the video, is him showing, hey, here's the stuff we're going to run. Here's the comment. And I quote, no hell way.
Great grammar. ... Fantastic.
No hell way. Talk up cards nobody wants. You're as bad as... He says the names of 2 people that don't like to wear shirts and don't have hair and sell cards in the same geographical area on TikTok. They love to say, my dad's going to sue, so I'm not going to say their names and give them any. But I think I just spelled it out real clear for everybody. They said, you're as bad as them, and you try to make thousands off of humans. That is who we try to make our money from. I've not yet run into a Slenderman willing to pay. And they can't get back. They can't get it back. What can't they get back? The card they bought? The money they bought? Are you saying that we're somehow... Okay, so anyway, keep your dork content coming, though. Manipulation at its finest. Block me or banter. I choose option C, Michael. I choose option C, which is to systematically break down how stupid this take was.
I'll make you famous.
Do with it what you will. Now, since then, I reached out. I gave him plenty of opportunity to respond. He said what he does for a living. He does something really honorable. I think that's great. Thank you for doing that. But he really can't explain why he had such a rough take.
Well, here's why he had the rough take, Jason. He wanted some attention.
Yeah, sure.
He thought we were going to like bring him on as a guest and let him try to debate with us and actually make him famous.
Yeah.
That's what he was hoping for.
Well, I don't know that we have the capacity to make anyone famous, period.
No, that's fair.
But
you know what I mean.
Leverage our audience,
yes.
for that.
You know what I mean.
So then he asked for a call or something. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. But here's the thing I want to understand. The accusation was market manipulation. And now those of you that are regulars think this is a stupid waste of time for us to even talk about it. And that's probably true. But I just want to be very, very, very clear. You could come after us for anything you want. Those 2 guys are fat and ugly. Yes. Those guys are old and out of touch. Absolutely. Those guys don't carry really big cards in their showcase. Nope. $5,000 card would be a really big card for us. That's not the type of stuff we carry. What else? They're a little bit obnoxious. Yeah. They're a little bit in the drama. They can be negative at times. All of that. But the one thing you're never going to get away with without us defending ourselves is calling us manipulators in this space. Because
right.
We've dedicated the value we bring to be honest. If there is nothing else we are, if we fail in our business, we will be honest on the way down.
Yep.
We are not going to lie. So you want to call us out for being manipulators in some way? Explain to me this, you moron. How in the world is a $1 start auction for 20 seconds with a 7-second extension on $10 to $30 cards hurting a soul? What could possibly be misleading about that?
Well, here's where that divide happens. And this is one of the things that is unbelievably broken in this hobby right now. This guy's take is based in a world that is all about if somebody buys anything from us, they must be wanting to resell it. That's where that take is coming from. It's not a world. This dude can't comprehend.
Oh, yeah. He can't even comprehend.
He can't comprehend that somebody bought a 1998 Pinnacle Gold Team Chris Carter, which is a card you see never. It's not worth more than $20, but he can't fathom that somebody bought that because they're a Chris Carter collector or they like rare 90s stuff and they're going to put it up on their wall or in their binder and just look at it from time to time.
It's worth $15.
Yeah. because they enjoy it. Like, that's something that person cannot fathom. If it's not transactional, they can't fathom it. Like, that's
one of
where
their
that take
things
comes
was
from.
the way that they would buy people's. They were willing to do buybacks right away. Was a part of the former business that they had.
Yeah.
That's now dissolved. Like, your
Crazy
bitterness
how that
because this
works.
model doesn't work and many people are closing down shop over it is not our problem.
Nope.
We're willing to work harder. That's just it. And we're willing to think about who's buying things and is it sustainable. So guess what? You're going to see us every Sunday at 4:30. Feel free to pop in and watch the manipulation at work, Michael. You'll be
Yep.
a whole lot of, hey, here's this cool refractor from 2002, starting at $1, and then we shoot the crap for 20 seconds. And we do that over and over. What are we manipulating here, bud? I just feel like sometimes when people are dumb enough, we should make them famous.
Yeah.
If we did that more, that would be a good thing. So, Michael, congrats. You're the first rant of the year. All press is good press. Whatever that next card business is going to be, boy, it would sure suck for you to have the same scrutiny you just offered us for everybody
Yep.
that listens in. So I'm sure we'll get some pushback from him, but he'll also deep down inside be happy somebody said his name. So, all right, let's move on. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I think we nailed it. Don't be a dummy. If you're going to have a take, use your brain to think it through before you say it. And a really valuable lesson in life in general, pick carefully the personality types that you choose to go after, because Jason and I usually aren't the ones. Now, if we're wrong, we will 100% own it. But if we're not wrong and you want to play that game, okay.
Yeah, we're loud and we call people out all the time, so we should expect the same treatment. But this was just like, I've never, like, we're not running a mystery repack. There's no like transparency is, hey, I'm going to talk long. Like, we talk so long. Like, I'm the shorter one and you probably have 40 seconds to comp.
Yeah. Jason gets annoyed with me because I will give you the full Wikipedia definition of what a card is before I run
later we've run 30 cards and they're worth 10 to 20 bucks each. So yeah, I can't do that. But just, just be real confident with what you say. And what was that opening line again? No hell way.
Yeah, no hell way. I don't even know exactly what that means.
That'd be a sweet
if you
t-shirt.
try to get in English, we'll try to read it.
That'd be a nice t-shirt. No hell way. All right.
2025
Recap.
was a grind and a lot of lessons. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it a little bit.
All right, you start.
Let's start. Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about a few things. I guess first and foremost, like Jason said earlier, one of the things that we really leaned into heavy in 2025 was a conscious decision to try to bring actionable value to you guys, especially if you're a dealer or somebody trying to at least fund the hobby by buying and selling, and not just rant and rave about things, but actually give you functional content for free. All we ask in return is clicking that like and subscribe button. But we wanted to talk about some lessons that we learned in 2025, because again, we've both been doing this for a little while. I've been doing it longer than Jason, but 2025 was the first year we were both completely full-time, no other source of income from anywhere. Jason did that a little bit before I did, but for both of us, this was the first year that was the case. So a few things that we learned we want to talk about. And they're not going to apply to everybody. If you're at a different stage in your journey in this business, it might be different for you. But you and I want to go back and forth on these, or you do want me to hit all three of mine?
First, and then I'll follow up.
Okay, we'll go back and forth here.
And I'll go back and forth.
So I think the first lesson that I learned as 2025 got into the heat of the year and as it started to wind down is this one. Show selection matters if you're a dealer. When you first start doing this and you first start setting up at shows, you don't really understand or know the difference between a 20 table show and a 300 table show. Mm-hmm. It's just a show. And you don't understand the difference between a show where a promoter is working their tail off to get people in the door and a show where a promoter just rents a room and throws some tables up and collects your cash when you walk in the door. And that's all they feel their responsibility is. So for me, going into 2026, it isn't the size of the show that matters. What matters is the effort and the time that promoter is putting into making sure that people come through the door.
Yeah.
It can be a 30 table show, and if 500 people show up, that's probably going to be a really good show.
Mhm.
It can be a 300 table show, and if only 1,000 people show up, it's going to suck. But being selective about who we choose to partner with as a brand, because that's how we look at it. When we're coming to a show, we're paying you to be a promoter, and in our minds, we're bringing our brand there, we're bringing our content there, we're bringing our showcases there,
We're bringing cash to buy
and
cards.
we're bringing cash to buy cards. Who we choose to partner with and the way that they choose to do business is going to be very important to us as we move forward in this journey as a brand together. And that's not throwing shade at small shows. That's not acting like we're too big or too good for something else at all. We will happily do a 30 table show that 500 people show up to. Yep. And we will happily not do a 300 table show that 1,000 people show up to. It's all about that relationship with the promoter being mutually beneficial for everyone. Is that a fair way to say that?
I think that's a really good point. And the way that you learn that lesson is if you start having, let's say that Q1 and Q2 were really solid. And then in Q3, you notice, man, show sales, blah, blah, blah. Look back at your shows. Is there a theme? Is there a promoter? Is there a traffic issue? One thing I try to look at was, is there steady traffic? Period. Not even even if it is lighter attendance, but it's steady. People are hanging out at a table and walking down, and you see people coming in. I can work with that. But when there's a sentiment of the promoters that I know there's not a lot of people in here, I wish you guys would have promoted this more. Yeah. That's the fastest way for me to realize I'm not going to do your job. I'm not saying it's an easy job. Promoting's work.
It is.
Promoting's your work.
So is being a dealer.
But we also found that when you find somebody that excels in this, we're going to latch onto their brand. So I'll say Brad Beeman with B Sports. He partners with Card Collector too, but Brad Beeman is, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the Midwest and those shows that are 100 to 300, 500 tables, he is the best at promoting that, building relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean that. He's come grab a bite with us. How things going? How's life? Yeah. Right. And some of you, we hear that and you're going to be like, a promoter. Yeah. Yeah. But as soon as he has a show, I'll check with Gary. Hey, what does he call it? To reserve your spot again. The list went out. The email went out. I was like, did you already? He's like, I already got it. Every time. But I will commit to moving my schedule around his shows because every single time there is consistent traffic throughout the show. Now, I'm not saying that all of his shows have been my highest paying shows. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is I never for once have to think for a second, is this show being promoted the right way? Have they thought about space? Have they thought about restrooms? Have they thought about concessions? Have they thought about all of that stuff? I know it's been thought about. And when I'm there, it's going to be promoted. There'll be a drone flying around to get people to come back the next time. Now, and everybody can't do that. I understand that. But even on a smaller show, if I know somebody's grinding out, hustling, I'm there.
Well, and Brad is top of that list. There's a few other promoters in the Midwest that fall into that category too. The guys over at Pittsburgh Card Shows, Bryce and Mark work their tails off to make sure that people are at those shows. The JJ All-Stars guys that run the Midwest Monster and the Mini Monsters, they do the same thing. If you are a promoter and you're listening to this and you're finding yourself getting frustrated hearing us talk, I would really encourage you to just take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I doing everything within my power to make sure that the dealers who are paying me money have success at my shows? And if the answer that you give is, well, I post the flyer on Facebook, and that's the only answer you have.
If it's the only thing.
Yeah. If that's the only answer you have, then you should probably examine ways that you can improve your business. We should all, whatever business you're in, whether you do this for a living, whether you're in your regular job, you should always be questioning, what can I do better? How can I serve my customer better? whatever that looks like. And the guys we're talking about right here that do it right, they're constantly doing that. I know that Brad, Mark, Bryce, Greg, those guys are always saying, what can I do to get more people in the door so that the dealers that are paying me money will want to keep paying me money?
Yeah. I think I want to put a important caveat here, because I think there are promoters that don't put the work in, but there's a lot more dealers that don't put the work in than there are promoters that don't put the work in.
No question about it.
The reason for that is those promoters are on the hook financially for a building, for tables, for the labor, like all that stuff takes time and money. So they've got to put some effort in. But there's a lot of dealers that are going to, as soon as we started in on shows and promotions, they're like, yeah. But your stuff's overpriced. It's not the right stuff. You haven't restickered anything in 4 months. You're unwilling to move off of your unrealistic pricing. I'm not saying reasonable pricing. I'm saying unrealistic pricing. And then you just want somebody to blame for your lack of effort. That's different. So we say this and we sound like we're projecting at everybody else. Here's how we learned that. 2 ways. One, we would go to shows and repeatedly do poorly after putting tons of hours in pricing the cards out and make nowhere close. There's been a couple in the last year I look back, I'm like, man, I'm not sure it was even worth it.
It's a waste
of a
day.
You depend on that to be a chunk, maybe a quarter of your income for the month. Like, you feel that. The other thing that's happened is we go to the shows that are well promoted and we don't do well. What did that tell us? We learned that lesson this year. We thought ultra modern football was going to fly in the first 6 weeks of the season because it did that the last 3 years in a row, and it didn't. And we were at the right shows, and we have 2 options there. We thought about it, like, was it the show? Because we were at a larger one. I don't think it was. We realized the market was responding differently. That was an us problem. There were people in the door. There was money walking through the aisles. We didn't have the right stuff at the right price. So we always have to look at ourselves first, but then you have a choice of shows. Now, there are smaller shows up and coming. There are promoters running smaller shows that, like, I wish I could do every one of them because I love them so much. Yep. And their passion for this, and they do it right, and they're honorable people, and they want everybody to win, but you have to be somewhat selective. So think through your own criteria in 2026. We're going to be thinking about it like this. It's not necessarily a big or large show, but we're going to need enough bigger shows, especially 2 and 3 day shows, to carry some weight for the brand to get out there and for us to have some bigger revenue weekends. We also want to be local. And we want to do some smaller shows as well, but the caveat's going to be, it has to be well promoted. So yes, show selection matters.
Yep. What's your first one, Jason?
The first one I want to talk about was eBay. 2026 was a wild, or 25 was a wild ride. In January or February, I posted that video, eBay standard envelope sucks. It was one of our bigger YouTube videos because so many people were dealing with the same issue. When I started going from setting up occasionally at shows and doing Facebook sales to, like, I'm going all in on cards. Part of that was doing the high volume low end with the Rico 8170, Card Dealer Pro, pay us. My goodness.
Please.
I now have 50,000 cards in the store. It's become a very viable stream of income, but in 2025, I really had to come to terms with a couple of things. Number one, if you're selling low end cards, understand that if you were first to the market, there will be 500 more to that market within the next month or 2. You don't have a lot of time to be aggressive with your pricing. Inventory can get stale really quickly. The principles with eBay don't change though. List every day, ship every day. List every day, ship every day. 90% of the time, if something slowed down, I had a vacation, I was out of town, I didn't list as much that week, I didn't ship everything that week. I went back and forth whether or not I'd even keep the eBay store. And I was very close in Q3 of shutting it down or just say, hey, whatever's in there is fine, but I don't need this anymore because it's such a headache. And then I made a shift for me that's made a huge difference. I began thinking about it differently of, like, if somebody's going to eBay and they're buying low-end cards, why? You can go to a shop. You can go to a show. It's probably cheaper. Why are they going to eBay? It's because they're looking for something collectible in that price point. So I shifted my inventory to things that I believe were more collectible, not just new and is this card worth 5 and can I get 3 out of it, right? You can do that, but just understand that inventory is going to get stale. Those markets shift quickly. But if I upload 10,000 vintage baseball and football cards from the mid 70s through up to like 80, most people that are looking to build a set would love to know if I have 5 or 10 more of that set, right? So I shifted my thinking there. As much as I am frustrated with some things that eBay does, and I still think with eBay standard envelope, them allowing multi-quantity orders to be one order would solve so many of the metric issues that sellers have, where it'd be a one order strike. You still would have to resolve it. You still have to refund all the cards. They can still do item not received cases. But if you consolidate that 10 card order to being one order number, I think you'd have a lot more people stick around. But the reality is this: there's no better place still for that low end. I sell low end sometimes on Whatnot, like once or twice a month, I'll do a low end show. It's still better on eBay. I don't care what anybody says. It's labor intensive. It's hard work. But if you want to make money on eBay, don't let anybody tell you can't because of fees. That is bull. I'm at 20,000 orders. My feedback is back to 100%. I'm at 19,000 logged, but I know I've hit it. It's going to show up in the next few days. But I was able to work those metrics back to that. So eBay is still viable. I don't care what anybody says. If you're selling the higher end stuff or bigger stuff and you think the fees are eating it up, that just means you haven't learned to buy right yet, or you're putting the wrong stuff on eBay. It's not for your 90% stuff. It's not for your 80% stuff unless it's a whale of a card. eBay for you, Gary.
Well, do you think, a question for you in relation to yours before I jump into my next one? Do you think that if you hadn't made that mindset shift that you would have shut the store down?
I think I would have. Well, I'll tell you what my thought was. So I think I shared this to you, but like my idea was, if I don't do this anymore because I'm so frustrated with the back and forth with eBay, I had like a month and a half in November where there was nothing in my metrics to indicate it, but my sales fell off 45 to 50%. And what's strange about that is if you're selling bigger cards, that happens all the time, right? You know, you sold a card for $4,000, right, last month, and this month you don't have a $4,000 card to sell. Well, that's going to obviously affect that. But with lower end, you usually see more of like a 10 to 20% variance.
It's more this than this.
Yeah. So I took a dive, and my thought was, here's what I'm going to do. You guys know I bag up all my SKUs. I'm going to do Whatnot lot auctions, one bag at a time, buy out my entire eBay store. I still might do that. You never know. I start at every auction at $5. Here's the 30 to 50 cards that are in here. Go nuts. That's what I would have done if I was going to shut it down. But I was considering it. I've come to terms with the fact that I'm never going to have leverage with eBay. They're going to have people that get different deals than I'm ever going to get.
Yep.
That's okay. They are still marketing cards I buy for 10 cents all over the world. They're getting eyeballs on it. So like it or not, it's still the best place for low end. There's other platforms emerging. Don't at me with Collex. Get out of here. Love you, Car Dealer Pro. Collex. That's the brand, actually. I probably just screwed us over there if they were listening. But that was my big eBay takeaway. Like, I wanted to drop it. I stuck with it. We're over 50,000 cards now, hitting that 20,000 sales mark. I still believe eBay is probably the best option for low end movement.
Yeah. My second one was this, and this was a hard lesson for me to learn. Don't count on a narrow buyer pool. If you are one of the easiest traps to fall into if you're a dealer, especially when you do this full time, and especially with the prevalence of the repack buying market, it is very easy to fall into the trap of having one person, one repacker, one entity that you count on so much that if 1 week they don't show up, you're in panic mode. It's even easier to fall into the trap of getting so used to that you start focusing your buying activity only on the things that you think they're going to want. And then if they don't show up, you're really screwed, because not only did they not show up, but all you have is a showcase full of the stuff that they would have bought, but not necessarily everybody else wants.
Right.
And now you're really screwed. It also puts you in a position where if their business changes in any way, well, all of a sudden your business is going to feel the brunt of that. Or if that relationship goes south or sour for some reason, you're going to feel the brunt of that. And going into 2026, one of my biggest goals is to diversify the channels and the people that I bulk sell to.
Yeah.
I still want to make sure I've got the stuff for the collectors walk-in shows and for the random people that are maybe trying to flip something or whatever. But the people that I sell 20 to 100 cards at a time to, I need 20 of those people, not one or two.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I think that a lot of people are addressing that issue this year as they look back. I think the reason that happened was we knew the market was hot. We had no idea how viable and how quickly that repack market would grow. And how much, like, if somebody has capital and they have interesting breakers, they're going to be able to scale that pretty quick. And what began to happen was people like you and I were like, all of a sudden, like, I don't know how to feel about repackers, but they sure have no problem dropping 10K at our table the first 5 minutes of a show. That's kind of cool. And they offer me, if they run if it's their repack, they offer me stronger than most collectors are off of sticker, because now the expectation is to give a 15 or 10% discount on everything. That's the irony. Like, people want to beat you up on comps, but they never want to pay your sticker, right? That's another discussion. But I watched a lot of people become frantic because they go from just getting started. I think some of these buyers, I know for a fact, they see people that are new to dealing. They see that they have decent inventory. They spend money on cards and they want to become their best friend and they want to be the first one at their table right away. And I get it. That's smart business for them. But what happens is they buy in like, well, I only moved 500 cards to everyone else, but I did $3,000 right away with this one repacker or this one buyer or this one collector. And that's fine. Keep doing that. Do not end that relationship unnecessarily. However, diversification is so important. When we interviewed Keith Newhart and we talked about having a shop since 2010, that is a hard thing to do anymore, right? The length of time that he has been an LC owner is the very impressive statistic, and all the great stuff he's done there up in Delaware. That one's it. But he was committed immediately to diversifying. So those of you that maybe are feeling this pinch of like, hey, I had one strong buyer and then Whatnot changed the rules, and now my repacker doesn't have Whatnot, and he's getting really picky and he's hitting these price bands and there's a squeeze going on. There's more margins. Two ways of viewing that. How can you tailor the experience for them? Or I need 3 or 4 more of these guys. Yeah. And I think if more dealers would do that, now here's what's going to happen. If it's repackers, they're going to get territorial. They do. They're going to have feelings about it. They don't want you selling to other repackers too. But the problem is they are not your boss. They are not your employer. They really don't have a say in that. This is your inventory and your business.
Yeah.
And so you can choose to just have one buyer, but just know if that goes away, it affects a lot of things. I think it's better. If I had a perfect scenario, I would have 100 people buy 2 or 3 cards at a show that they love.
At a show, yeah.
I would take that all day. It would all be end user. But
that's not realistic.
If you want to get paid and you want to pay your bills with this, you're going to have some case hits in there, like it or not.
Yep.
You're going to have stuff that repackers are interested in. Right now, that is the market we are in. And you can have the other stuff that people call bricks or that you and I call unique, because they are scarce things without comps. But
well, I think the point you made there was really important too. I don't work for you. Right?
And it's not a disrespectful
statement. No, not at all. But if I wanted to work for somebody in this business, I have no doubt whatsoever that I could make 10 phone calls and have a salary in a week.
Yeah.
Doing what I do for someone.
We could go source for Arena Club. Let's just call it what it is. That's what
I had. Yeah.
That's what a lot of people that would experience too.
I had a conversation with a friend of ours who's a fellow dealer in this space, who reached out to me a week ago asking for advice because he got an offer of a salaried job in this industry and was, trying to weigh whether he wanted to go work for somebody else. You and I made the decision that we don't want to work for anybody else, at least at this point. Now, I would be lying if I said that if somebody came to me and said, hey, starting next week, we're going to pay you into the 6 figures for a 40-hour work week doing nothing but card stuff, I might have a hard time not at least considering that. But that's what it would take to at least get me to consider it. So when some of these buyers that you deal with on a regular basis treat you like you're their employee, it can get frustrating.
Yeah. And I
So
think it's important that there's not a scarcity mindset. Like that's what I would emphasize. Like the people that you're selling to are the one or two bigger buyers. Do they have a similar philosophy to this, or are they going to drop you like a bad habit the
yes,
moment you say, actually, I'd like another $100 this time because you're saying you're at 90%, but I'm stickering this here because it really is there, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I think don't count on a narrow buyer pool. I think that's a really smart one. Yep.
What's your
Um,
next one, Jason?
my next one I have, this has probably been the most fulfilling part of my business journey in the last year is relationships matter. And I know
And
that's
you're so
super
much better
generic.
at this than I am.
I'm designed to be a very relational person. I
Yeah.
think my wheelhouse, whether I like it or not, is you put me in a room full of strangers and say go. And I'm able to really quickly and almost in a scary way get a read on everyone in the room. And within an hour, I'll know what they like, what they don't like, who I'd never care if I talk to, and who I might want to do business with.
Yep.
But I was spending so much time on the labor of the job because I was, again, 50,000 cards on eBay, setting up at shows every week, whatnot every week, multiple times, creating content, editing videos, posting. I mean, we're not exaggerating. 55 to 70 hours a week is just
Closer to
what
70.
it takes.
Yeah,
It's
closer to
just
70.
what it, I know I'm trying to downplay it, but it is. If you say the big number, everybody's like, yeah, no way. But I took time off over the holidays and I probably still was about 30 hours of just shipping and listing and
And it
everything a
felt
week.
like a vacation, didn't it?
It did. But the relationships matter, and here's why. We are in a very slimy space. It's unregulated, right? We've seen wherever there can be quick money and value, there's going to be scams and scandals and all this. It really matters that you know who you're working with. It matters that you know who you like and don't like. And the reason it's tough for a lot of people in the space that are doing it for a business to focus on those relationships is because we've been taught to be in a scarcity mindset with all of this stuff. There's not enough to go around. That repacker spent money with you, so how do I know that they're going to spend money with me? This shop will never work with you on numbers. This one will. And I think that until you get to know some people, that's going to be the case. Nobody knows you. You just walk in demanding something, nothing's going to happen. But I've experienced how mutually beneficial it is with other collectors, other dealers, one table down. We have people that walk up to us with case hits that they want 90% for. We're never going to pay that, but we will walk that business down to people that are happy to pay that percent, and they love us for it. And I'm okay with it. It's a win-win.
And they send us the weird stuff. Like a perfect example of that, somebody that I've known for a while, but I've gotten to know better this year. And you guys, if you follow sports card content, you've seen them. Brent Shannon at Shannon Sports Cards.
Yeah.
He's always set up right across from us at Grove City. And when guys walk to our table with case hits, we're usually pretty close to the front of the door. It's like CC2 and then one other person and then us, and then Brent's right there. I just send him over there, and Brent sends us the weird stuff, the kind of bricky stuff that isn't his forte, but he knows we like.
Yep.
And like you said, those relationships matter.
I know somebody now that if I wanted to sell a value box, I could flag them down. They would come take it. I know somebody else that if I was looking for a certain type of card, I know buyers and people that buy from us now, like So Coolly on our whatnot. Shout out to him. Like, he's super involved in that, but he's a massive merino collector. Incredible Instagram, by the way, if you love merino stuff. But if I was ever looking for something, I would reach out. And it's not about it's not just about a monetary exchange, but I think it matters that there is actually some sense of community in the space. I work here. You work there. We're coworkers, like it or not. And I would prefer to enjoy the time I spend at shows. So I find myself now, by focusing on this, enjoying shows more. Slow shows feel like a 2-hour delay school day to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just like, anything could happen today, right? Like, they're going to wheel the TV into the VCR, and I'll walk around and just chat it up and see how people are doing. But it's a job that one of the things I talked about was like, mentally, it's a strain. You're working really hard. It's very repetitive. most of the time you're working alone, I think relationships really do matter. I think they do.
Yeah.
I think it's important. If you don't have any of those, just put some effort in. Say hi next time to the person that's been friendly to you at every show. Ask them their name. Go look at their stuff. Start a conversation. You never
Yeah.
know where it will lead.
And focus on developing those relationships that are two-way street relationships. I think it's easy to get caught up in a business relationship in this space, especially with as many people as are out there that have a big following. Even if it's just an IG following where they're just like posting pictures of stuff, people know their names.
Yeah.
And you get a little, I don't want to say starstruck, that's not the right word, but you get a little bit of the, oh, this person is somebody that would be great to do business with. And all of a sudden you realize that relationship is all one way. They want to buy your stuff at 70%, but when you want to buy their stuff, it's got to be 95% of the sticker.
Yeah.
Focus on two-way relationships as well. That's all my aside would be there.
A really good point with that is there are some people that if you just both decide, hey, we're playing the same game here, so it's probably not going to work, you may end up having a really good friend. And I had this happen last year. There's a couple people where we got to that point where I was like, I can't keep giving you that kind of a discount. As I work my numbers more, as I would do my accounting afterwards, like, hey, I was a little bit aggressive there, and I just can't. Most people that are reasonable will respect that. And if they don't, you don't need to do business because they're going to screw you over at some point. But it's been amazing what's happened with some of those relationships where it's like, we're probably not buying and selling from each other. But now if they have something I like because we're cool, I get a better deal if it's for the PC, right?
Yeah.
Or if I have a really neat card, they'll market that card for me because if they have a buyer that likes it, they've provided value to their buyer just by telling them where to find the card. So those relationships are huge. And your LCS is not the enemy. Go find a shop if you really care about this hobby.
Narrative.
If you really give a crap about this hobby, find a local shop if there's a few close to you and hang out there whenever you buy cards. Talk to the owner, get to know them. Gary and I pop in and out of shops all the time, but there's no secret. I hang out at New Heart Cards in Delaware more than anywhere. And I used to just go in and make my purchase and thank you and good talking. And now I find myself sitting on a stool hanging out for an hour.
Yeah.
Talking to other people that come in. So relationships matter. Getting to know the people in the space that you're hanging out with, it really does matter. So that was a huge lesson for me.
Last one for me before you get your last one. Something strange happened for me this year. Up until 2025, I would say that I was probably known outside of the podcast, just in the sports show world. At most shows, I was known as the guy, hey, if you want baseball or Bowman, go see that big white banner over there. That's your guy. And I still have that stuff. But it's not 80% of my inventory anymore. This year, I diversified to where it's almost an equal split between baseball and football stuff. I've pulled back a little bit from the Bowman side of things, although I still am there to an extent, but it got more volatile than basketball did.
Yeah.
I've even expanded my basketball horizons this year to actually have some basketball, even though it's more 90s and 2000s stuff and not the ultra modern stuff. Expanding those horizons made a huge difference in the bottom line for my business this year. The biggest change for me was I never had any interest in the vintage side of things at all. It just wasn't something that appealed to me. And the last quarter of 2025, I started buying more vintage stuff. And I found something really interesting. And you had been trying to tell me, and I had been watching it happen to you. And I was just like, yeah, that's just because Jason knows how to talk to old people.
That's true too.
It is true. But I buy vintage, and within 2 weeks, the vintage was gone. And if it was a Mantle or a Maze or an Aaron, it was usually gone within a few days. And so I'd go buy it again.
And how much were they trying to beat up your price?
Not much at all. Not much at all. As long as my price was realistic. Like, you can't go out. Gordy made this comment when you interviewed him earlier this year. Like, it's like a coloring book. If you're in between the lines of what a PSA 4 sells for, you can have the best looking 4 in the world. If you try to price it like a 7, you're never going to sell it.
Right.
But you can price it at the top of the 4 range.
Right.
As long as you're in those lines.
Sure.
It sells pretty quickly. So for 2026, I'm going to try to do even more. I kind of am setting a goal for myself by the end of the year. I kind of want about 25% of my overall inventory to be vintage.
Well, and beyond that, as you're doing this, a side note, you're enjoying it. Like you're building out the
Yeah, that's what I
1957
say.
set.
I'm going to do the 57 set.
One of my favorites.
A good friend of mine came up to me at Xenia. Guy I used to coach with, shout out Luke. Guy I coached high school football with for several years came up to me at Xenia and said, "Hey, I just got these back from grading, and it was 8 or 9 of the stars from the 57 set." And he gave me a good price on them. I bought them from him. And I looked at my showcase and I realized, well, I already have the Hank.
Mm-hmm.
I already have the Maze. Well, let's see here. Maybe I should do this set.
I've got 2 cards. I might as well build out the 1957 set.
Well, so what happened is the next week,
Yep,
I went to an LCS owned by a friend of mine, who's been a friend of mine for 30 years. And he had about 19 or 20 of the commons already graded, PSA 4s, 5s, and 6s. And he gave them to me for one heck of a price. And then another friend of ours, back to relationships, sold me the Ernie Banks, and it's raw, but it's nice.
It's clean, yeah.
And then I picked up another 54 commons and semi-stars for less than $2 a piece this week. I'm a quarter of the way through this set.
Like, I just want to point out that, like, let's look at how much Gary's grown. 6 months ago, he was opening SpongeBob, and now he's looking at real cards.
Still going to open SpongeBob.
But that 57 set, I think that's a set. That's a really good point. I think expanding your horizons pays off, right? Like looking at a little bit different stuff, trying some different cards in there. So that's cool that the vintage has been popping off for you.
Yeah. It's been fun.
I don't buy it all the time, but when I can, I do. I'm learning lessons about what moves quickly and what doesn't. Now, a temptation with vintage is if there's a comp there, I'm going to get it. You need to be more concerned if you're unfamiliar with vintage. If there's a comp there, will it still sell is a good place to start, right? Yeah. Because I've been cooked on a few of the right sets and decent names in raw condition that until I'm willing to send them off for the one that everybody knows they are, probably not going to sell it. So there's a little bit of a painful learning curve. The beautiful thing about vintage is it can be really beat as long as you're willing to lower that price enough, you'll move it.
Yep.
You can unpark that a little quicker than some of the newer stuff.
Yep.
So that's a really good point. The final one when it comes to shows and the business is I had to learn the power of no. Now, obviously on camera here, I'm very direct. But if you've ever seen me in person, I'm direct, but I'm very friendly. I'm not going to be unkind. If somebody throws that energy at me, you can get it right back. But for the most part, if it's between me or Gary and there's a tense situation, he would prefer, and I would prefer that I'm probably the one responding, right?
100% of the time.
So one of the things that was tough for me was because I was so committed to my metrics, if I bought something really right and I could hit the percentage I wanted and the price of the card was way up there where I may have like doubled up, I had a tendency of saying yes because it was like, give me that money back, let me rebuy. I already made my margin. And that works and works and works until you hit like a slower month. And then you're like, what's going on? What is happening?
You need every one of those points.
You needed those points back. And so one of the things I shifted in July was I knew that I was going to take a little bit of a hit on my sales initially to say no a little bit more, to hold my ground when I'm $10 or $15 off. Those were the tough ones for me because it was always like, dude, you can rebuy. You've already got the 20 or 30% you're expecting on this card. Just go unpark that money. Well, that's fine, but some of that stuff was really liquid. And 10 minutes later, I probably would have gotten a stronger percentage. So,
and 10 or 15 bucks on a $500 card is a whole lot different than your $50 card that somebody offers you 35 for.
Right. Yep. So as I began comparing my inventory value after shows to the money that came in and what I would expect to buy at percentage-wise for the next one of the shifts I made was I have to say no more often. And you know what I learned? By doing it respectfully and carefully, it didn't affect my sales.
Nope.
It didn't. Some people respected it, and they're like, oh, so you want like 5% more on stuff? And they just started offering stronger. So you never know what will happen. Other people respected it more, and it opened up a relationship there where they may not buy from me, but they respected my willingness to be like, the price is the price. I'm here. And it's a little bit of I think everybody that takes this full-time leap, especially in the show scene, has to go through this. Like, you've already been through that point. I had to go through it last year. I had to learn that lesson. You got to say no more often and trust
Yep.
yourself. If you're putting the work in, trust the numbers you saw, trust those comps, trust the market.
And let's be very
trust the
honest
market.
about
trust
this.
the active market,
Yeah.
not just trust the market and blank statement.
Let's be very honest about this part of it too, because this is one of those lessons that's a lot easier to learn if you've got some cash cushion. Like if you've got 6 figures is strong, but if you've got 5 and into the 5 figures of a little bit of like cash cushion, it's a little easier to say no.
Sure.
Than it is if you've got $400 in the bank and you're like, I got a light bill to pay this week or a mortgage to pay this week. If you're in that position, you shouldn't be doing this full time.
Right. Right.
But I know people who are trying to.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be. Say no to yourself.
Yeah. And tell yourself, hey, for one more year, it's going to be 60 hours a week. I got my job and I'm putting 15 to 20 hours in, and I'm doing 1 or 2 shows a month, and I'm selling a few things online. You will not regret it. You know, Gary and I looked back at some disappointments we dealt with in our business in the last year. And there's been a couple. You know what we don't talk about is we had a network deal that completely failed and flopped. Right when we started, there was a network that was based out of Ohio. They had all these shows in Cleveland. It was a big market. This and that was going to happen, and we just watched it kind of fizzle out and not really monetize. We've been through disappointment. We've been through setbacks. We really have. But what we learned this year was, like, every time something like that happened, it was like the best thing for our business. We had to force ourselves to learn something and adapt to it. I think Whatnot was a great place for that. You want to dive into that just a tiny bit here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Whatnot lessons for us have been fast and furious and hard to swallow sometimes. Every time we think we have something figured out, we realize, nope, did not have that figured out. One of the things that you guys heard us talk about, and we thought we had found the leprechaun's gold, and we talked it through the roof, and there's credence to it, but it's not all we thought it was. We thought we had figured out this cost average thing, and it was the end all be all. And there's validity to it if you're unbelievably picky about what you buy, and if you run every single card that you buy. But
I'll spell that out a little further. If we buy 150 cards and 100 of them are really good to run, and 50 of them you're like, well, there's some value there. Until those 50 cards move, you did not buy those 100 cards at that. Like, it's just math. That's parked. You're parking it.
Yes.
So whatever the cost per card, all 50 of those are zero. It's negative. It's negative
and
money.
What we found was we would buy 500 cards at a show, and we'd spend $1,100, and we were like, man, we're in these for $2.30. We're in this for less than $3 a piece after our costs and everything else. And then we would run 300 of them, and 200 of them would go into a box, and we'd say, well, we'll get to those eventually. And then we had 7 4-rows full of eventually that we realized were going to be impossible to actually turn into cash. So we had to learn a really hard lesson on that front.
Yeah.
And we finally broke down, and we took the vast majority of that stuff, and we took almost a full day on Black Friday, and we grinded out the longest Whatnot stream we have ever run, just to get some of that cash back.
Don't care if it's $1, don't care if it's $3, whatever it is, just get it back.
We were running 100 card lots that were selling for $8. It was just like,
some people love that show.
We gotta turn this into cash.
Yeah.
And that the lesson there was it only counts if you sell it. If you don't sell it, then it really wasn't your cost average. It's not how it works.
A part of the lesson we learned too was the inventory. Like, there has to be a diverse inventory there. So we went all in on late 90s, early 2000s unique inserts, which we still do that more heavily than most people do. And because people are our age, a lot of people are our age. There's some people younger, but for the most part, they're not early 20s hanging out in our shows, right? So we ran that stuff, but at some point, It's not always easy to get the right kind. It's not always easy to get the right names. You can have a card with a $300 comp and run that on Whatnot, and if it's not the right name,
We've
you
got
might get
50
20
bucks
or
for
30
that.
bucks.
Yeah.
Like
It's happened.
it happens. And whose fault is it? It's our dumb fault. Why in the world did you think that the 20 people in this show make up one of the people looking for this card in the world? You
Right.
know? So we had to learn that lesson. I think it's affected our show buying as well. It's part of the diversifying. But I know this. If I want to have a successful show, I bet, especially if it's 90s, 2000s, there better be Jordan, there better be Kobe, there better be Shohei, there better be Jeter. Who else are we forgetting? Barry Sanders.
Barry
The
Sanders.
names matter. And if you
Yeah.
ran 20 of their cards last week, guess what? Go buy them again. The
Yep.
same names. Listen to the market. You and I had some cards that we loved, players we couldn't believe. Hall of Fame auto. It didn't matter.
Yep.
What do people want to buy? So that was a really hard lesson for us and whatnot. We got cocky about it. Now, the beautiful thing, we can still say this, we have not lost money on a show yet.
Nope.
We've made money every time. But we had one show this year where it was close. And we spent a lot of time on it. So we've had to change that up. That was a big lesson for us on Whatnot. One of the things that threw us off was when we first launched Whatnot, Juicebox gave us that case to do a review on. So we had a case of PSA and SGC slabs to give away over like a 6-week, 8-week period. And our following grew to like 4,000 in that 6 weeks. And we're like, we're going to have 50,000 followers by the end of the year. No,
we
you're
got
not.
85. We got 8,500.
No, you're not. Unless you want to keep giving away thousands in slabs every time. So, that was part of a lesson too. It's going to take time. Spend time with your audience, build relationships with your buyers, learn what they're looking for. Learn what you're looking for. At one point, we had a big Ted Ginn buyer. I would go get that. There's a Gingy Beard's a handle on our that follows the pod and all this stuff. He loves CC Sabathia. Like, I know a handful of names that I probably wouldn't normally grab out of a stack that my buyers like to see. And so you really have to, with Whatnot, it's a moving target. I wish I could use the quote that I give you all the time when it comes to Whatnot. We don't know S about F. I'll just leave it at that. But like, there's a quote from Ozark, and it's like, just when you think you completely understand that market, just buckle up, because Whatnot changes quickly. It's ever evolving. And if you're going to do a model where you're not yelling and just pushing sudden death, you really have to have the right stuff, because a 20-second auction with no action can clear out a room in about 5 minutes. You start running stuff like that.
It's also a really important lesson there. And you just alluded to it, but I want to just hit it a little bit harder. If you want to grow a Whatnot stream, now I also want to clarify this. There are a few of the guys that are kind of yellers and screamers who don't do the, hey, we're only halfway there chat. They don't lie about stuff. They just, that's their way of entertaining.
Yeah.
But if you are not going to be
that's
that type of a seller, then your growth is going to be slower. If you're not, actively doing the monkey song and dance, people lose their span of attention. They flip to different rooms. And we had to learn to
cards.
Be okay with
cards.
That level of growth, and seeking the right customers for you, and not just casting the widest net possible.
That's a great point, because if we went off of comments for the last month, we would have run nothing but Drake May case hits.
Yeah.
We're not those people. And honestly, if I have a Drake May case hit, I'm probably putting it in my showcase.
Yeah, not running it on Whatnot.
Yeah, not that I'm a
people in the room.
You've seen me do that. Like, I'll run Rookie Kings. I'll run some $100, $200 stuff max, but bigger than that, it's just not consistent with our market there.
Yeah.
I have people that buy $500 cards from me on a regular basis at shows, but in our Whatnot, it's affordable and it's collectible. That's the criteria.
Right.
So content, as we wrap up here, what are some lessons you think we learned? If anybody else is out there and they're thinking about doing card content, here's the first thing I would say, and then I'll hand it over to Gary.
Yeah.
The biggest regret that Gary and I have with our brand is that we did not put this on camera 5 years ago, that we didn't trust ourselves. We knew how hard we were willing to work, but we didn't believe in ourselves enough, if we're being honest. We were hopeful and not like believing that we were going to build something. And it wasn't until we put ourselves out there that we realized there's an audience of people craving authentic conversation around the hobby, where the interest is not self-gain only, where it is unapologetically a space for people that are dealers trying to make money with this. But man, I regret that we didn't start sooner. Man, I regret that we didn't just ready, fire, aim with this, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and that's something that both of us not only regret, but the whole ready, fire, aim is so against how we're both wired.
Yeah, that's true.
We both want to know what the path looks like before
Yeah.
we step a foot onto it.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that. I think a few of the lessons that I would take from content this year, it took us longer than it should have to figure out what our voice was going to be in the hobby.
Yeah.
And I think we both knew what it needed to be before we decided to lean into it.
Sure.
And again, I think most of these content lessons boil down to trust yourself and go. You know who you are.
Yeah.
And the minute that we leaned into that, we saw the little bump right off the rip when we went to video. But what really, really saw us take that kind of exponential curve was when we said, we're the guys who are anti trying to sell knowledge.
Yeah.
We're the guys who are anti gatekeeper. And we're going to just tell people exactly what this is like and offer to help in whatever way we can to help people be successful in this business. You may not agree with our thought processes. You may not agree with our takes, but you can't say that we're not trying to help people.
And that it's not rooted in experience. Like that's one of the unique takes is it's nothing to turn on a camera and give your take about hobby news. Sure, do it. We want to hear it. Everybody's got an opinion. That's never going to be boring.
Yep.
But the reality is it may not be substance. The biggest shift we made. So we had a viral video, the only truly viral video we had, where we went after Backyard Breaks over that shipping issue they had, which was resolved like a week later. But it was an issue. And we had a decision to make. But I was feeling like I didn't just want to create content around the tinfoil. I didn't just want to create content around conspiracy and negativity.
Just say what it is. We didn't want to be Sports Card Radio 2.0. We didn't want to be a constant stream of negative.
Yeah, but some of the stuff they said I really liked, so I don't want
to. Well, it's not a question of liking it. I think all of us, human beings, we all eat up when somebody says the things that we think deep, dark things about, when somebody's willing to say the negative things that we might be a little too afraid to say. And if you listen to us at all, you know that we will say some of those things, but we didn't want every week to be an hour of just crapping on everything in the hobby and complaining about every person in the hobby. Like, that's not what we wanted.
And that's the reason that I started turning on my phone when I was shipping items on eBay. And just answering any questions people would have. And until TikTok changed hands and ownership, I was able to do that. Now we get restricted if we mention the word eBay. I can't.
We were set up at a show this weekend, not even talking, just had the camera on the table so people could watch what it's like at a card show. And we got restricted.
Yeah. So that's made it tough, but we did that. And then the biggest shift we made was this thing called the value box, where it was like, what can we give away? What can, we're not saying that we have a massive shop. We're not saying that we are the biggest influencers. We're not saying we buy these $10,000 cards, but you know what we are saying? Nobody's going to outwork us. Nope. There's nobody in this industry that's going to outwork us. I stand on that. I don't care. And the other people saying I do, they probably work just as hard as we do. Yep. But you're not going to outwork us, and we're never going to lie to you. We're going to tell you exactly what we're experiencing. And
we're going to try to offer you the best advice and knowledge that we have to help you in your business.
But trying to be the exciting new content, that wasn't us. We're a couple of blue collar guys that work really hard, and we took the leap, and we want to help other people know that this is an option too, and find a way to be helpful in that. So like, if I can say there's anything we're going to double down on, it's how do we bring more value to the content? This morning, someone shared, Thomas Family Cards on TikTok, shared this long story about how a philosophy that we introduced in an episode is affecting his business with a stressful situation he was dealing with. And I got emotional.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I got emotional because nobody knows. I'm getting teary eyed saying this. Nobody except you knows just how much we've put into this and how much it matters to us that we are not full of shit when we talk about this. It matters so much that it's rooted in our own failures and experiences and our wins. And that's what we're trying to give away. So if there's anything we're going to lean in on more this year, it's that. We're going to bring more experts. When we don't know something, we're going to bring somebody in. If there's something in the repack space and we aren't the right voice for that, sure, fine. We're going to bring in the right voice. Shop owners, people that sell on Whatnot, people that scream on Whatnot. What are they doing? Why are they doing that, right? There's a lot of people watching. We're going to hear a lot more voices on that. Our hope and our commitment with the content is that we just keep giving more and more value away. And any ideas you have for how we can be helpful, we want to hear from you. We want to know what those might be. So a lot of lessons in 2025. I've never been in a situation. I can't recall in my adult life being more excited for a year in my business than I am this year. I genuinely mean that. It's such a rewarding feeling to know that you built it to the point where you kind of have an idea what you're doing and you want to grow on it.
And you still remember the big thing for me is not only that part of it, but always remembering what you said earlier. We still don't know S about F sometimes. And being willing to eat. You're never going to grow as a person or in your business unless you're willing to say, hey, I was wrong here. How do I fix it? How do we make it better? 2026 is going to be awesome. We're excited that you guys are here and on this journey with us. We hope to hear more from you. Keep those comments coming in. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. It really does help us. We, in full transparency, we are so close on both YouTube and TikTok to monetization, which would be a huge, huge step for us.
It's just a goal.
It's just a goal for us, and it will help us to increase the quality of the content we bring you. It will help us to bring you more diversified content. We want to be able to hop on a plane and even if we're not set up, fly to the Burbank show and show you guys what it's like out there. Same thing with Dallas. And those things happen when we hit those goals. So make sure you're hitting that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really does help us a ton.
You'll see an uptick in the number of Whatnot shows in 2026. 3 to 4 a week are likely. The way that's going to work is every single Sunday, you'll have a show with both Gary and I on it. That's the Ballcard Show. And then additionally, because Gary and I do this for a living, he'll have a pop-up show. I'll have one. I also do low-end lot stuff because I mess with that low-end market a little bit too. That's called Morning Madness. It's madness in the morning. Maybe we'll come up with a different name. That just sounded good at the time. We had no idea what to put in there. But we've got that going on. Shows coming up. We have Eastgate on the 18th.
Yeah, the day after this drops. 17th. It's 17th. It's actually a 2-day show this month. However, we'll only be there for the
Eastgate is?
Yes. It's the 17th and the 18th this month.
Interesting.
But we'll only be there on the 17th unless we get froggy and decide to stay in Cincinnati. I don't know.
Anyway, secondly, we have 2 shows at the end of the month. There is a really cool one, the Buckeye Card Show. I want to say
the Ohio State Card Show.
Okay. The Ohio State Card Show. Greeny Sports Cards is hosting that. It's at the Kasich Center at the fairgrounds. Good size space. Really excited. We got 3 tables for that. Our buddy Keith from New Heart Cards will be a sponsor, will be set up there as well. Following day, the very end, is it February 1st or January?
February 1st. Yep.
February 1st, Super Bowl Sunday, right?
The 8th is Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, we're good then. February 1st, Grove City Card Fest. And then we'll be back to Xenia, Eastgate, all that. So a lot coming up. Shipshawana is in March. We're going to be traveling more. If there's a show in your area you think we should check out, let us know. We'd love to talk with you about that. Man, this is a lot of housekeeping. Is there anything else, Gary?
No, I think that's it. We kicked off 2026 with a almost 90-minute episode. So hopefully y'all are still awake and with us. We will be right back to the grind. You will see us every week, at least one of us every week until the holidays again next year. Good Lord willing, we'll be here.
One thing left to do. This has been the Ballcard Show, the sports podcast
for the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.